What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Cheap Seats Podcast. I'm Wire to Wire Gene, and to my left is the Prince of Production, Kyle Edwards. How you feeling tonight, Kyle?
Mike's still muted, bud.
And he's still muted. Come on, Kyle. 1 week. I need you to be ready 1 week.
I was ready to go. I don't even know why I was still muted. That's my fault. But it's going to get better from here.
It's only one way to go. It's in there. You're so unprofessional, Kyle.
It happens. But no, I'm good. I'm ready to get into these topics. I think we have another great show ahead. So it's going to be a fun one.
I'm looking forward to them also. Directly below me, I got Dylan Reed, a.k.a. D-Nice. What's happening, Dylan? How you feeling?
I'm doing pretty good. Just waiting. Sports is kind of at a dull period right now. So just getting as much information and news that I can.
What are you talking about? This is nothing's dull. Nothing's dull.
I don't know, man. If you're not a big baseball fan, what are people really watching?
I'm a fan of everything. Baseball, football, give it to me all.
I gotta wait till my Saturdays. My Saturdays are usually what's keeping me busy now.
We need some college football on Saturdays. That's what we need.
Most definitely.
And caddy corner to me on the bottom left. Welcome back. Mo Better, Mo Money, Mo Problems. How you feeling tonight, Mo?
I'm good, Gene. Hey, guys, what's up?
We give him a week off. I never knew of a job where you start 1 week and then the second week you just take off.
Yeah, it's unique. Much appreciated.
Should let this guy take a week off. I don't think that's right. I'm kidding. We got some fun topics for you tonight. We got 4 questions as usual, week by week. Check in the comments. Say what's up. Welcome to Cheap Seats. So 4 huge topics. We got 2 football topics, a general topic about fan bases, and a 4th topic that can basically go anywhere with sports phrases. So we're going to get into each one of them. But I want to start, it's NFL season. I want to start, why not put some people on the hot seat early? Why not talk about the coaches that are walking into the season? This training camp is starting. The Jets were announced for Hard Knocks. Let's talk about some coaches on the hot seat. So read the question out. I think this was Kyle's question or Dylan's?
Yes,
it was Kyle's.
Kyle, read it out. I'm gonna share this group out to like 100 groups real quick.
Okay. I mean, it's a very simple question. We have the NFL season coming up. I feel like this is kind of an activity that most fans like to do each season. Which are the NFL coaches to you that are on the hottest seat going into next year? We can start with Mo.
I think Todd Bowles is a good candidate for somebody that's on the hot seat. But you know what? I'm gonna go another way. How about Sean McDermott?
Okay.
How about Sean McDermott? And I'm only saying this because, look, you can replace a coach a lot easier than you can replace a quarterback. So we can all acknowledge Josh Allen has come up short more times than not in the postseason. but he's still their big gun. He's still their franchise quarterback. At some point, if they keep coming up short, they're not going to move Josh Allen. They're going to look to move on from the head coach because you can't keep changing out offensive coordinators. Eventually, the man at the top, the man that everybody's got to like ride with and follow behind his leadership, that's the guy that people are going to start looking at. So I'm going to say that Sean McDermott is on a hot seat. No matter what their regular season record is, it's all about what they do in the postseason.
Okay. Can I rebuttal that one real quick?
Absolutely.
And the only reason I say that is because out of every single coach that we talk about, Sean McDermott's seat is freezing cold. There's nothing hot about it. Should it be on the hot seat? Yeah, I agree. It should be on the hot seat, but it's freezing cold right now. Buffalo goes 7-10. They might put him on the hot seat. And I don't think anybody expects Buffalo to go 7-10. And the problem is this, right? Mo, you're right. He should be on the hot seat, right? Defensive-minded head coaches are of the past. They're of a different breed. You look at what you're looking at on the screen. Todd Bowles, defensive-minded head coach. Brandon Staley, defensive-minded head coach. Riverboat Ron. Look at all these coaches on the hot seat. Sean McDermott. Their defensive-minded head coaches are on the way out of the NFL. However, I can't say Josh Allen's coming up short in the playoffs. Last year, yes. That game versus Kansas City 2 years ago, that's not on Josh Allen. Might be on the clock. That's not on Josh coming up short. Just an opinion. What's your opinion, Kyle, on your own topic?
Well, I kind of went outside of these three as well, and I went Dennis Allen down in New Orleans. They're in a division that's very winnable. They brought in a new quarterback after the quarterback's been kind of an issue there for the past couple of seasons. You know, Derek Carr's going down there. I think there's some expectations, especially with Olave at wide receiver. You still have Alvin Kamara. You got Thomas, depending on if he can actually play or not. The defense is still pretty good. I feel like if the Saints don't find a way to win that division with the state of the other teams, I mean, Atlanta, you're dealing with second year in Desmond Ritter. Still not sure what they are offensively. They made a lot of changes to the defense, so we don't know how good they're going to be. You're looking at the Carolina Panthers, where you know they're got a young quarterback. I think their defense is really good, but we got to see what Bryce Young can do with the speed of the NFL. And then you're looking at Tampa Bay. They just lost Tom Brady. Now you're being led by Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. It kind of seems like the Saints should win this division. And if they find a way not to, like, how does Dennis Allen keep his job?
It's funny you say Dennis Allen, because what is he?
Another defensive-minded coach, yes.
Who Mike is that?
I have no clue.
Driving me nuts. Dennis Allen, another defensive-minded head coach, on the hot seat.
True.
And it's crazy how the NFL is completely swung. NFL coaches are all offensive-minded. All the Super Bowl winning coaches, outside of Bill Belichick for like the last 10 years, are all offensive-minded. Doug Peterson, Sean McVay, Andy Reid. Go through it. They're all offensive-minded head coaches. And then you had the GOAT on the other side. That's the only reason listen, I'm not saying Bill Belichick's not a phenomenal coach, but these offensive-minded head coaches are where the league is headed. Guys, I don't even know if I could put this guy on the hot seat. I don't even know if I could put him on the hot seat. I don't want to say Brandon Staley again. I don't want to say Brandon Staley. The guy is terrible. He should have been fired after last year. His seat was super hot last year. I don't know if he got rubber on his booty, because this man that never feels the seat being hot. So let me give you a different one, because I feel like the ones on the screen are very easy. I was not a fan of this hire to begin with, but I think this year's the Matt Eberflus year to be on the hot seat for the Chicago Bears. If Justin Fields doesn't take that step forward that he should, if the Bears don't take that step forward to contention in the playoffs, I don't think Matt Eberflus has a job next year. I wasn't a fan of the hire to begin with. That should have been Brian Flores' job. That was the year after he got let go in Miami. It was an easy hire. They didn't go that direction. I'm not a fan of it. But Matt Eberflus is definitely on the hot seat in Chicago. Can't have another number 3, number 4 overall pick season. They got to make serious progress. I think they need to win eight games to save his job. I really believe that. If they don't win 8 games, I think he's fired. And that's a 4-win increase from where they were last year. Yeah. Dylan, who you got?
So I actually went different than everybody. I had all of your guys' names as like kind of just different names, but the main one that I honed in on is Mike McCarthy. I feel like he should be on the hot seat. I mean, the Cowboys back-to-back 12-win seasons, but they're 1-2 in the playoffs. McCarthy's 6-8 in the playoffs through 2011. Having a great regular season is nice, but if you're not doing anything in the playoffs, it doesn't matter. I mean, the same reasons that all of us have said some other coaches. Like, it doesn't matter if you do great or decent in the regular season. When you get to the playoffs and not win, it's not good. The team also parted ways with Kellen Moore. Mike McCarthy is going to be taking over the play calling now there, which is going to be very big on him. It seems like it's kind of a lot of this pressure is on his shoulders this season to produce. And if the Cowboys just lose in the first round or maybe not even make it to the NFC Championship, that would be their 27th year in a row without doing it. I think it would be a time for a change. This team has a great roster in an NFC that is, I wouldn't say open, but it's mainly a 2-team race between San Francisco and Philadelphia. I think if Dallas has a prime opportunity to at least attempt it, and if they just get bounced out of the playoffs again or in the second round, it's going to seem all for a fail. They have a great roster. They got Stephon Gilmore to pair with Trayvon Diggs to help out that secondary. They've kept a lot of people outside Ezekiel Elliott. Tony Pollard should be that lead back. Hopefully he can come back healthy. I know he has his contract issues as well. Overall, I just don't think I think him taking over that play calling is definitely putting a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and it's kind of looking like, hey, this might be his last chance. So I think Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat. Cowboys fans probably won an NFC Championship.
So I love that answer, right? And I think one of the worst kept secrets in the NFL is how good the Dallas Cowboys defense has improved in this offseason. And like, people are literally talking about the NFC like it's a 49ers, Eagles, and that's it. And I completely disagree. I think Dallas is more talented than any team in the NFC.
I agree. I think they have one of the most talented rosters, and if they're then to fall short in the playoffs again, it's going to look very bad on McCarthy.
I mean, you look at the NFC as a whole. Do you have a top 5 running back in Tony Pollard? Well, Pro Bowl selection last year would say yes. Do you have a top 5 quarterback in the NFC? I would say yes. Do you have a top 5? Yes. Do you have a top 5 wide receiver in the NFC? It's close. CeeDee Lamb right there. Close. How about a top 5 defense? And the answer is yes. They're top 5 across the board.
You have 2 of arguably the best corners in the league right now. Stephon Gilmore is still really good, might be a little older, and Trayvon Diggs, I know he gets burnt in some coverages, but he still can ball hawk the football.
I think that's a very good question. So we can look at the ones on the screen. I think Todd Bowles is out of there. I think that this is just a makeshift year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't understand how he could keep his job. He would have to take Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trash with an H at the end to the playoffs. I don't think he'll do that. Brandon Staley is on the last year of his contract. I don't see how he can get an extension unless the Chargers make a run in the playoffs. They can't just make the playoffs. Stefanski's another great answer.
I saw Stefanski a lot when I was researching. My thing with the Chargers is like, it feels like more prime that Staley will get fired. They're building like a new area. They're building a new facility. I'm pretty sure, like you said, it's the last year of this contract. I'm pretty sure they'll be fine eating that last year if they have to. I think if Staley doesn't make it to like an NFC or AFC championship, he's gone. I think he has like the hottest seat of them all.
I completely agree with you. And after I don't know how he wasn't. I would have fired him before he got on the plane home from Jacksonville.
Exactly.
I don't know how you make it home from Jacksonville. Was it 28-3?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember a 28-3 game in the Super Bowl, and that coach got fired. Oh, wait, he's on Dallas' staff. Sorry, Doug. I take shots at Cowboys fans anytime I get a chance. I love Doug, but anytime you take a shot at a Cowboys fan, it's always fun. Oh, yeah. And then you look at Riverboat Ron. You want to talk about Ron Rivera. You want to talk about a guy that didn't know that his team was eliminated from the playoffs? if something happened. Because I don't know who we're going to start at quarterback next week. Well, you realize that if you lose this week, that you're out of the playoffs. Oh, that could happen. Do you remember that interview?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was awful.
And they turned around and brought in Bieniemy, who's been in the coaching kind of carousel the past couple of years, and he's been brought in there to basically seem like be the heir apparent.
Yeah, he's like the assistant coach basically, but he's also the offensive coordinator. Yeah. It just seems like it's just a matter of time.
I'm gonna tell you something right now. If Eric Bieniemy doesn't get a head coaching job soon, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I feel like this year has to be his last year. I feel like Rivera might step down or go up into the head office or whatever that may be. But I feel like it'd be weird if Bieniemy's just an offensive coordinator in Washington again.
Right.
Call it like it is. I think that it's laughable that Eric Bieniemy hasn't got a job. So he went to Washington to prove that it's not just Patrick Mahomes that's making that offense roll. That's why he did it. He said, I'll go here and I'll do it with Sam Howell. And I'll show you guys it's not Patrick Mahomes. See, Freddie, post Freddie's dumb comment up. Okay, so his problem was he was under Andy Reid. Let me ask you a question, Andy. Let me ask you a question there, Freddie. Who did Matt Nagy come from?
Andy Reid.
Who Doug Peterson come from?
Andy Reid.
I'm not like where do you think Sean McDermott came from?
Same place.
How about John Harbaugh? You want to know what those four coaches all have in common?
Nice little shiny ring. Yep, we got a nice little shiny ring.
And call it like it is. Don't make excuses for it. Eric Bieniemy should have a job. Oh yeah, Pat Mahomes. So okay.
That's why he left.
Who did Matt Nagy have as his quarterback?
Pat Mahomes.
Who did Doug Peterson have as his quarterback? Like, stop it. It's wrong. Okay, so Doug says it's bigger than football for Bieniemy. There are other reasons why he hasn't been hired. Now, if you're referring to skin color, that's what I'm referring to. But if you're referring to the off the field stuff that happened in college, I don't know what to tell you at this point. Mark Few still has a job. He has a DUI. And this what drives me nuts even more, right? Who's the idiot coach from West Virginia? I forget his name. I don't know why I'm forgetting it.
Bob Huggins. Yep.
Said on a radio show a homophobic slur and didn't get fired for it. He got fired for the DUI. He got 2 months later. Come on, man. Stop it.
Yeah. I mean, even with that, if it's something that happened in college and he has no prior incidents or accidents, gotta let it go.
Eric Bieniemy's domestic violence, he didn't plead guilty to it. So you can say what you want about Eric Bieniemy's domestic violence situation. It was a no contest. So, and if you want to hold that against Eric Bieniemy, that's fine. Then just I ask you to keep the same energy when a white coach gets domestic violence, when something happens with a white coach. Let's not pretend that this is just an Eric Bieniemy problem. This is a Brian Flores problem. This is a Jim Caldwell problem. I can go down and down and down if you like. It's not. I don't want to keep going down that rabbit hole, guys. But like, let's be honest with ourselves. Carlos, were you there? Did you see him beat his wife? I don't know. I didn't see that. And Tyreek Hill still has a job in the NFL, and he's done a lot worse things, if we're being honest.
I mean, I guess Kareem Hunt's a free agent, but Kareem Hunt, he did.
You're kidding me, right? He said John Gruden didn't get fired for over less. Are you kidding me? Did you read those emails? What is going on right now? Am I in the Twilight Zone? You realize what he said about DeMar Smith? Am I in the Twilight Zone? I got to get off this topic, I swear, because it gets me heated and gets me fired up every time we bring it up. And we're just going to make excuses, right? Like every year Mike Tomlin's on the friggin' hot seat. Guys never had a losing season ever. Yeah, you know.
I don't get that. That's wild to me that they're really talking about Mike Tomlin. He's about as consistent of a coach as there is outside of, I guess, Belichick or whatever, but there's not a lot better in the NFL than Mike Tomlin.
Talk about an ice cold seat, and Mike Tomlin's not going nowhere.
That's what it should be, yeah.
By the way,
to that stadium.
I don't know. In 1990, he was suspended for 1 game for shoving a firefighter. In 1993, he allegedly grabbed a female parking attendant and threatened her. at the University of Colorado. So why are we? This is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, I can't.
There's been many players and coaches who have done worse, who have had careers, successful big part careers in the NFL and any other sport.
Yes, you're correct. Okay, well, any other coaches that we want to mention for being on the hot seat before we get off the topic? Because I swear these comments are just going to be continuously annoying me. And that's okay.
I like the Mike McCarthy take. I think that's a really good one. I like that one a lot.
Mo, let me ask you a question real quick. This offseason, let's just kind of add on to this. How many coaches at the end of this season, between the start of game 1 till the middle, let's say the beginning of next season, how many coaching changes do you think there will be from opening day this year to opening day next year?
I'm gonna say it at a minimum 7.
That's a high number. We always think 7. We always think 8, and it ends up being 5, 4.
I might be wrong, but I'm gonna say at least 6 or 7.
I'm not disagreeing with you. There's at least 7 coaches that need to lose their job. I'll tell you right now, watch out for this. If Minnesota has a great defense this year, the Minnesota Vikings have a great defense this year. I promise you Brian Flores will be a head coach next year. Because their defense was awful last year. And he went over there to be their DC.
Yeah. Like that.
His poor interviews. I'm not in those interviews, bro. I don't like. I'm not in those interviews.
I feel like if he interviewed so poorly, like something would have had to came out about how it is. Like, you know how much rumors and leaks there is over different things like that. If he interviewed horribly or said something horribly, I'm pretty sure we'd find out what it was by now.
Well,
I think it's just a smoke screen. Oh, did
Atlanta said he interviewed poorly. Atlanta said,
okay.
And I can't take away from what Arthur Blank has done, if I'm being completely honest with you. However, we talk about a bad interview. How about a bad GM that shows up drunk to an interview like John Elway did for Brian Flores' interview in Denver?
Yeah.
We don't hear nothing about that. I don't know. I'm done. I'm getting off my soapbox today. Any other coaches that you feel like that should be on the hot seat that haven't been mentioned? Mo said 7 coaches next year, and I tend to agree with them. I mean, Brandon Staley will not get renewed because he's not going to get fired. Essentially, his contract ends this year. Ron Rivera will not be in Washington next year unless they really take off this year. Todd Bowles won't be in Tampa Bay. I could see Stefanski if the Browns don't make the playoffs or Deshaun Watson doesn't take a step forward. I could definitely see Eberflus if the Bears don't win 8 games, 7 games. I could see McCarthy if the Cowboys don't win a playoff game. That's 6 right there. I think I could see McVay retiring again or doing that thing where I don't want to coach because I don't have a football team. It's a lot of situations.
A big Fox deal.
Yeah.
Just information. And we forgot Josh McDaniels.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest joke of them all.
About him, yeah.
He was one that I was seeing, but I didn't write him down.
Josh McDaniels inherited a better team than Rich Bisaccia had just taken to the playoffs. He basically took Rich Bisaccio's team, added Devontae Adams, and was like, well, it takes time. What do you mean it takes time? Rich Bisaccia just had that team in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I heard about the Jim Caldwell thing when he got fired after taking the Lions to the playoffs. How many times have the Lions been in the playoffs since Jim Caldwell? Oh, I'll help you.
0.
Yeah.
Their closest chance was last year. Go Seahawks.
Yo, the Seahawks cost me a lot of money that game. I had the 3-team upset we talked about on pregame at Pigskin. I put the $100 on all 3 money line dogs on the last Sunday of the week. And, man, that would have been a nice payday.
Sorry about that.
All right, let's get to the topic.
Robert Saleh, which that's probably the Aaron Rodgers effect, I guess, if you're really going to put him on there.
Yeah. I think it could be something they would think about, especially if the Jets flop like badly. But I don't know. If Rodgers is going to stay for 2 years, they're going to keep Saleh for 2 years.
I also feel like that I feel like you could say that if the team flops, a lot of coaches could be on the hot seat, right? Like, so just let me give you an example of what I mean, right? If the Baltimore Ravens have like a 4-13 season or a 5-12 season, you don't think John Harbaugh is going to get fired? And
I don't think he'll get fired, but definitely he'll be one of those ones that it's like, ooh, maybe they're talking about it.
I don't know. I just feel like when you look at all those situations that are around the NFL, if this team flops, I think that if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I could really see our defensive coordinator from last year that took over Arizona's job. I don't know why names aren't coming to me tonight.
Yeah, no.
The D coordinator from the Jonathan Gannon. I could really see Jonathan Gannon being a one and done in Arizona. How many games do you think that team's going to win?
They've done it before.
I give him 2. Kyler's going to come back in like November and win 1. That'll be it.
All right, well, let's stay in the NFL for topic 2. Dylan, you have a very, very good topic. So why don't you bring up topic 2?
So how this topic came about is Austin Eckler made a comment about the running back market being undervalued. He feels like they do a lot of production for the offense, which I agree with, and they're being paid less than some backup receivers. When I go on my turn, I have a whole list of backup receivers, and we're going to play Austin Eckler, or just so you know how many players are getting paid more than Austin Eckler, just decide who would you want. And then just basically we talk about why the running backs are underpaid, or basically why are the running backs underpaid? Do you think they're undervalued, or do you think they should be valued more?
Okay. You tell the order, sir.
So, all right. So, I'll start since I have this list. I'll make it easy. So first, like I said, Austin Eckler came out. He said he was being paid less than backup receivers. So we're going to play a game of Austin Eckler, or I'm going to start off with some bigger name receivers. You're going to see if you would want him or the other player. And then I'm going to tell you their contract disparities, meaning that this player gets paid this much more than whatever, or I'll just tell you the total amount. So for example, who would you rather have, Austin Eckler or Amari Cooper?
I mean, Austin Eckler.
Exactly. Austin Eckler gets paid $13 million less than Amari Cooper. It's not crazy. We'll go to a different one. How about Marquise Brown or Austin Eckler?
I'm taking Austin Eckler over Hollywood all day.
Yeah, exactly. So how come Marquise Brown makes $5 million more than Austin Eckler does? Seems weird. What about this one? You're going to like this one, Kyle. Jonnu Smith or Austin Eckler?
Hey, that's Atlanta's problem now.
It is. Eckler. Exactly. He gets paid $4 million more than Austin Eckler does. So with the production, with different things like that, so why is this running back position getting undervalued? They take about 30 to 50% of the production of just plays in general that's not going to these different receivers. They're the bell cow. They're the ones who set up those big plays. If you see a 50-yard pass, there's probably a couple 4, 5, 6-yard runs that set it up beforehand. They're getting undervalued. They're getting run to the ground just for cheaper options as a backup. Teams see these rookies and be like, he might not be as good as so-and-so player. They might not be as good as that player. But, I could save about $8 million, spend it on a crappy receiver like Corey Davis, who makes $2 million more than Austin Eckler does. And then we don't have to worry about it. I feel like the running back market is severely undervalued. When you look at them, if you look at a train conductor, for example, a train conductor, you have the conductor, which could be your quarterback, but the one who's putting the coal in that steam engine over there, that's the running back. He's getting the offensive there. The quarterback's just the one just conducting it, taking it all the way there. I don't know. It's something I'm passionate about. Just looking at these receiver contracts, just like made me upset that like someone like, Saquon Barkley, who didn't get a larger deal, Josh Jacobs, who ran for 1,400 yards last season, didn't get a larger deal, or even someone like Austin Eckler, who had 18 total touchdowns last year. None of those guys had anywhere near that last year, and they're all making 10s to 15 millions more than any of these guys, even some of the dudes I mentioned.
Why you make a good point about running backs being underpaid, there's a reason for it. And I'm going to be the guy that says the reason, and I'm going to be the guy that gets the crap, and that's okay. I would never pay a running back. Never. Wouldn't pay any of them. I'm not paying any of them at all anything that they think they're worth. I think Philadelphia figured it out. I think San Fran what they did with Christian McCaffrey, it makes sense. Christian McCaffrey already had his contract in place, but that's not the point. I think teams figured it out. that
He
you
makes the
can't
same
pay
amount as
running
Corey
back.
Davis. CMC makes the same amount as Corey Davis, though. So that's what just.
Yeah,
I'm
but it
sorry.
doesn't matter. You want one? All right. So I went back 3 years and I went through the 5 biggest running back contracts from 2020 because you can kind of see how they evolved, right?
Mhm.
All right, let's just go through it real quick. Do you think Zeke was worth the money he was paid? Do you
No.
think he lived up to the contract?
Not even
No.
close.
Okay. How about Todd Gurley? That was the second biggest contract.
That was even worse.
How about Lev Bell for the Jets?
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing.
David Johnson,
Oh,
13 million a year.
Was that from the Texans?
No, it's from the
Oh, it's the
Cardinals.
Cardinals. Oh, you went back. That's right. That's what I said.
So no, none of them.
Yeah, no.
None of
They're
them.
all getting paid $13 million plus a year to be bad. So here's the problem, right? Running backs have a very short shelf life. It doesn't matter how good you are now. The only time a running back is good is during their rookie contract. That's the only time they live up to the money they're being paid. You give me examples of running backs that sign huge contracts that have worked out long term.
Nick Chubb.
Okay. He's literally just signed a contract, 2021?
Fair.
So he's 2 years in.
I'm not sure how long if Aaron Jones just re-signed, but I know
He
he's
signed
like the
2021 offseason, and they're
Okay.
already replacing him.
true. Oh, is they?
They have a running
fair.
back by committee. AJ
Well,
Dillon.
I wasn't sure if AJ Dillon was like drafted that. I was just thought he was drafted that same year they gave him that extension.
He
Like,
was. That's accurate. Third round draft pick, but Aaron Jones makes $46 million on his contract.
I mean, I guess you could say Christian McCaffrey, but he got 14. Christian McCaffrey.
We got it from Carolina.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how you feel about Derrick Henry, but
See, the King is different, right? The King is different. The King never signed a huge contract because he wasn't good until he signed his contract. If you remember the beginning of Derrick Henry's career, he was terrible. He'd be terrible for the first 10 games of the season. Then he'd blow up in weeks 11, 12, and 13 because everyone was tired out and they would get colder, and then he would be fine. But Derrick Henry's only been great for the last 3-4 years, if I'm being honest. But yes, you're right. Derrick Henry's the only one worth considering. I agree with that. You think Dalvin Cook's worth the money? You think teams are lining up to sign Dalvin Cook?
well, I think the reason. So, like, more onto my point, I think the reason it is because they can get cheaper. They look at Zeke, they look at Cook, they look at so many of these veteran running backs, and they go, we could just spend that money elsewhere.
You're correct.
I don't know. Maybe it's for these upper tier echelon guys, like someone like like running for 1,400 yards and not getting anything seems a little garbage. I mean,
It's not about them not getting anything. Saquon Barkley won $16 million a year, and he didn't play 2 in the last 4 years. Yes, last year he was great, and I'm a Saquon fan. He's a Penn State kid, but he won $16 million a year, and he hasn't played 2 of the last 4 years. Josh Jacobs was cuttable last year. Before last year's season, people are talking about who's the kid they drafted behind him
Zamir White.
Zamir White was going to take his job in training camp. So
They played him in the Hall of Fame game. They started Josh Jacobs in the Hall of Fame game in the preseason to make sure he was up to par.
You are absolutely correct. I'm gonna address Austin Eckler, one of my favorite guys in the league, one of the most fan-friendly guys in the league. The guy is all about fantasy football. If you send him that you won and he's on your fantasy team, he sends you a signed football. He's a great guy, right? I'm not here to shit on Austin Eckler. I love Austin Eckler. But there's 15 running backs in the league I would take over him. 15. I'm not talking about what he does in the passing game. In my opinion, Austin Eckler is a glorified James White. That's who he is. He's a pass-catching back. That's all he is. Between the tackles, you rather have him or Travis Etienne?
Etienne.
Him or Breece Hall?
Maybe Breece Hall can come back from his injury. Probably good. Probably.
Talking about rookie running back. I'm not even trying to.
Maybe.
I'd rather have Javonte Williams coming off a knee injury than Austin Eckler. Running between the tackles. I'm not talking about his pass catching ability, but as a running back, he's not top 15 in the league. Your thoughts, Mo?
You guys covered it. Their shelf lives are so short. I mean, think about the other positions: a receiver, quarterbacks. They hit their primes late 20s. They can play into their 30s. The value of the quarterback has increased the value of the receiver. Franchises are looking at running backs and saying, this guy's a 1,200-yard back. He might get us 300 or 400 yards in the passing game, but he wants $13-14 million, and he's 27, 28 years old with mileage on his body. He's very replaceable. They're going to apply that money to the positions that hurt or help your franchises the most. Cornerbacks, defensive ends, left tackles, they have more value. As tough as it is to say, a running back like Saquon Barkley, as gifted as he is, he wants $16 million, but he's only proven just this past season that he could hold up. He doesn't have a history of being durable. As talented as he is, I wouldn't pay a running back that much money, especially if you look at how the Giants are built. Saquon Barkley on the Giants, his career it's set to be even that much shorter because he doesn't have a quarterback that puts fear in the defenses. The best thing when you look at the way football is right now is running backs are just so movable. They don't have the value they had in the 80s, maybe even the early 90s. Derrick Henry is an exception to the rule. He's kind of a throwback. The guy that carries the ball 30, 35 times a game, a bell cow. They don't have those kind of backs anymore. He's an exception to the rule. But as the game has evolved, has it become a more quarterback-dominated league, it's watered down the running back value. And that's just the way I don't think that's going to change. When we were in our first segment, you were talking about defensive-minded coaches. Defensive-minded coaches love running games. They love old school 3 yards in the cloud of dust and play defense. I think that style of football doesn't win anymore. And the value of the running back, where we are now, it just isn't what it once was.
You know, it's funny you say that, Mo, because I had a kill shot if somebody wanted to argue, and I know you don't want to because you're on the same page as me. But I had a kill shot, and I was waiting to use it, so I might as well use it. Kyle, you want to argue with me?
I mean,
you think that I'm wrong here?
I'm a Patriots fan, and Belichick never pays running back, so I'm right there with you. Look, they just got rid of Damian Harris because Ramondre Stevenson is younger, cheaper, and you could argue a better running back. Now
it's funny. It's funny you say that, right? I want to read something to you real quick, just for the fun of it. Tyler Algier signed a 4-year, $3.9 million contract with the Atlanta Falcons, including a $330,000 signing bonus. Joe Mixon was scheduled to make $12.8 million this year. He restructured to make $10.1. Want to play a game? Who had a better season last year? Tyler Algier or Joe Mixon? Joe Mixon had 210 carries. Tyler Algier had 210 carries.
Oh, dang.
Joe Mixon plays with a good quarterback. Tyler Algier does not play with a good quarterback. Joe Mixon plays with a team that has a vertical passing game and a team that wins football games, so you'd assume the running back would be used more. Tyler Algier plays on a team that won 4 games, and you would assume they would pass more. They both ran the ball 210 times. Joe Mixon ran for 814 yards at 3.9 yards per carry. Tyler Algier ran for 1,035 yards with 4.9 yards per carry. Why am I paying one guy $12 million when the other guy's making less than $1 million? It's not the running back's fault. It's just...
I get your point, and I get it. I just have a big problem with just like these franchises running these running backs into the ground because they know they can get as much use as them out of their rookie contract and then just letting them go. It's like, for example, if Tyler Algier, after his rookie contract, if the Falcons went, we want a different guy, but he can get another 1,000, maybe a couple more thousand, close 600, 700, 800 yards, and he's only making $4 million. He's probably had more offensive production for his team than someone like Corey Davis is going to have, or someone like any of these overpaid receivers. So it just bothers me a little bit. Like some of these running backs are producing more than some of these guys who are getting way bigger contracts, like some of these receivers or tight ends. They're just not getting compensated for it because
value over replacement. That's the issue. Dylan, the value over replacement is nothing. Cincinnati was going to be perfectly content starting Samaje Perine to be their starting running back this year if Joe Mixon didn't restructure his contract. They were going to cut him. Have fun, Joe. Figure it out.
Perine's on the Broncos, so it's whoever's there.
Sorry, Chris would have been Chris Harris. Chris Evans from Michigan. My point being is they were fine. They didn't care. We're not paying you, Joe. We need T. Higgins. That's exactly what they said.
I was just about to say that because remember, everybody was like, oh, they can't afford T. Higgins. And the Bengals owner was like, no, we're keeping our wide receivers. We're going to make sure they get paid. And we're going to sign Joe Burrow, too. And everybody knew
I get your guys' points. I get your guys' points. It's just like you brought up Tyler Joe. It would suck if he had like 3,000 rushing yards by the end of his rookie contract and then didn't get paid because he had like one injury at one point.
Yeah, you're right. But here's the problem, right? Let's look at all the places that paid running backs. Look what Dallas did to DeMarco Murray. They ran him for 400 times. He was the rushing leader for the entire year. Philadelphia signed him to a big contract. 1 year into the contract, they're like, "We're done with this. Hey, you want him Tennessee? Let's get rid of him. We'll give you a 4th round pick just to take his contract off our books." It happens with everyone. They don't pay him because they don't live up to the contract. It's not about what you do. You know what the funny thing is this, right? The CBA can kind of fix it by paying running backs more on their rookie deals. They could do that.
True.
By allowing running backs to make more money on their rookie contract. But the shelf life on running backs are too small. And the collective bargaining agreement doesn't allow a player to get paid until they prove it. It's just the way it's set up. The maximum money that it's different for positions. So they can change that for positional. Like quarterbacks make more money in the first round of draft than running backs do, or wide receivers do. They use a scale.
Look at the franchise tag, for example. All of them are different valued because of what's just based off of like the highest contracts. Like for the example, the franchise tag, it's only $10 million. But if you look at a quarterback franchise tag, it's 36. So
you're right. All I ask you to do is when you're looking at this situation and breaking it down, find me successful running back contracts that I can look at as comparison. Because you're not paying running backs for what they did. This isn't a lifetime achievement award. You're paying them for what they're going to do during that contract. And good general managers and good football teams understand that you cannot pay a quarterback and a running back. I think part of the reason San Fran so successfully pays Christian McCaffrey is because they have no money invested in the quarterback position right now.
Enough.
None. They have Mr. Irrelevant as their starting quarterback right now. Guy's making Dorito money. Look at good teams in football, right? Who are the best 5 teams in football? You got the Chiefs. They're paying Pacheco peanuts. You got the Bengals. They're like, hey, we need to get rid of Joe Mixon's contract because this is crazy. The Buffalo Bills don't pay a running back. They got Zach Moss.
They let Singletary walk to the Texans because they said we don't need you.
Okay. Philadelphia Eagles have 4 running backs making a total of $6 million. They got Swift, Penny, Scott, and Gainwell. Their total is $6 million. Miles Sanders by himself is making $6 million. Yeah. You tell me who you'd rather have. You want Miles Sanders? You want the other 4? I'll take the other 4. And I ain't got to invest nothing in my running back room. It's just facts, right? And that's the problem, that facts get in the way of feelings. We all feel bad for these running backs that get ran into the ground and then don't get paid. I feel bad for him. Saquon Barkley deserves a contract. I would have took the $14 million the team offered me, though, because you're never going to get it. Don't be Lev Bell. Don't be Lev Bell. That's all I can ask you. Don't be Lev Bell. Any other comments, gentlemen?
No, I hear it.
I feel like I'm arguing with myself. Damn it, man. Do I just call you a name? I'm kidding.
That's what I said. I'm from, seeing the Patriots not pay running backs, and I learned a while ago there's really no need to. You can draft a guy 3rd, 4th, 5th round. Draft a couple of them. You'll hit on one of them at least. And if not, you just split time with them while you build with your quarterback, your wide receivers, and your linemen. I just think the Ezekiel Elliott thing killed it for everybody. Because once that deal started getting worse and worse, teams were like, we cannot be Dallas. Like, how far into that contract did we know Tony Pollard was a better running back?
2 years ago.
Yeah.
But they had to keep Zeke because he was making so much money. Like, teams don't want to be in that situation anymore.
Todd Gurley, the Rams cut it out quick. Todd Gurley signed a massive contract with the Rams. Then he had irreparable knee damage. Sorry, bro. Good luck. He's not in the league anymore, bro.
He went to Atlanta, and that was it for his season.
He's not in the league anymore. All right, we got 2 more questions on the agenda, and we're halfway through the show. So, next question on the agenda, my man Mo, my guy. Oh, you want to do? I'll do mine. We'll do mine. My man Mo came up with, I think, is one of the funniest and best questions our show's ever had. Get most. Read it off to us.
So, my question is, what sports takes drive you crazy every time you hear them? And I think we all have them. We've all heard them. There's too many for me to go at, but a good example for me, the one I've heard so many times that drives me crazy, is that Kobe was carried by Shaq. That drives me crazy. It doesn't drive me as crazy as how many titles does Michael Jordan have without Scottie Pippen? That one drives me crazy. It's the same amount of titles as Isaiah has without Dumars and Vinnie Johnson and Rodman. The same amount of titles as Bird doesn't have without McHale and Parrish. The same amount of titles as Steph doesn't have with Draymond and Clay. Same amount of titles as KD didn't have with Steph. You could go on down the line with that, but that's one of the more tired, lazy takes, and it's used ad nauseum. Another one is, and it's a fictional one, Scottie Pippen was one bad call away from going to an NBA Finals. And the reality was he was one bad call away from getting to a conference semifinals or getting out the second round. That was the factual.
I got one. I mean, when I heard this, I thought you meant like overused expressions, like this guy's going to be elite or this guy's getting.
Oh, that's good. Those are good too.
My favorite one of those, and I'll get into the one that you're basically what you're talking about. My favorite one of those is about quarterbacks. Well, he can make all the throws. Okay. I hate that expression. I can't stand that expression. It's a dumb expression, but that's okay. You want to talk about horrible sports takes? I can't stand when they're like, well, Ohio State quarterbacks just are never good. I hate that. I can't stand. Why? So if a quarterback chooses to go to Ohio State, because it used to be Alabama quarterbacks are no good. You guys remember that? Ken Dorsey days. And then all of a sudden that stigma is gone. But, he can't be good. He's from Ohio State.
Man, I feel like that's the whole SEC.
It's okay. But you want to hear something funny? Where do you think Joe Burrow started college at?
Ohio State. Justin Fields.
A lot of people don't know that. Joe Burrow started at Ohio State. So why? Because a quarterback chooses to play in Ohio State system and it can't be good? That's a stupid statement. I can't stand it. Oh, another one. Remember when Duke players are always busts. They're always busts in the league.
I remember that. Christian
Laettner, JJ Redick, like all those guys that come out of Duke, they're always busts. And then Jason Tatum said, "Oh, please take this, sir." "Yes, sir. May I have another?" And then the last thing I want to talk about with sports takes is anything Skip Bayless says. I'm going to give you an example of what I mean because I was prepared and I love always bashing on Skip. Skip's worst takes. So I have them up right here. The worst takes Skip Bayless has ever had. And I want to read some of them out loud because I think this would be somewhat comedy. Let's start with January 2nd of 2023. No doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of this game, but how? This late in the season, a game of this magnitude is crucial to regular season outcome, which suddenly seems so irrelevant about DeMar Hamlin. Again, I think Cam Newton can be a good NFL quarterback, but I think Tim Tebow can be a little better. Long term, give me Josh Freeman over Cam. Better leader, more consistent passer, more clutch, more poised under fire. I'll take
Josh Freeman was someone.
Johnny Football will one day be bigger in Cleveland than his buddy LeBron James ever was.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but Von Miller is overrated. I didn't love him in A&M. Disappeared in too many big games, and he's Denver's real MVP. Tim Tebow, the most polarizing athlete ever. Eric Fisher will prove to be much better NBA head coach than Steve Kerr. Brandon Whedon, much better than Tannehill, will soon beat out Cole and have 6 to 7 good years of T-Rich. Trent Richardson. Jerry Jones is covering his backside by regretting not landing Paxton Lynch. He should be more worried about Dak Prescott over Cardell Jones. He said Manti Te'o was the next Ray Lewis. These are all.
I remember that one. I remember that one.
I'll never get over that Johnny Manziel one to this day.
Oh, the Johnny Manziel one is even better.
So anything Skip says would be on my list. Yeah, George.
That.
Remember he told Shannon that Tebow could block better than him. Oh, Max does have the worst one of all time. This is absolutely correct. Max Kellerman's Faded the Universe, one shot.
Oh,
The Martians have the death beam. He wants Iguodala over Steph Curry. I want Iguodala.
Faded the Universe. Come on, Max.
Kyle, the one you have on the screen is great.
I mean, he did it for like 5-6 seasons calling this Cliff thing, and he believed it. I gave him credit the first time when he predicted it, but then the fact that he kept running it back, even though Brady was clearly not anywhere near Cliff. I get it. Some of these TV guys, I feel like they kind of say some stuff just to, clicks
get them ratings up.
Yeah, so I cannot believe that he actually believed that Brady's gonna fall off the cliff. I just don't. That's just.
I think he believed it, and I think he tried to keep running with the take as long as he possibly could.
It's like one year it's gonna hit.
Guys, I'll be honest with you. I had two terrible takes, but I'm okay with that, right? I'm all right with being wrong. I said Justin Blackman. I don't know how many of you guys remember Justin Blackman.
Yeah, Oklahoma State.
Justin Blackman is the next Terrell Owens. He'll be far better than the receivers that were taken before him, AJ Green and Julio Jones.
Oh, Blackman was good in college, though.
Yeah, I thought Blackman was going to be good, too.
Listen, I get bad takes, and it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, I'm okay with admitting them. Like, I'm not standing on this hill until it dies. I just can't. I love Justin Blackman. I thought he was incredible at Oklahoma State.
I did as well. I lived in Oklahoma. Trust me.
Dylan, what's some of your takes? Some of the takes.
So this was I guess I didn't fully understand the question, so I only really had one. I guess two. I have two. Rings versus accolades. Personal accolades, I should say, is not something I'm big in. I'm all about, if I play a sport, it's a team game at the end of the day. So I care more about a player's rings. I care more about winning championships. I care more about that than personal accolades. And I get personal accolades make who's like a GOAT comment or different things like that. But overall, I would definitely overvalue someone who has a lot more rings than someone who has just a lot of NBA, like all-star appearances or different things like that. I don't know. That's something that bothers me. And then the new school versus old school take. People saying like this night. Like people saying like this 1980s team could beat this 2023 team today. Probably not. No. A lot of these guys are bigger, stronger, faster, have more tape, more different recovery systems, and so many different other things that I find it hard to believe when a lot of people say like this 1980s basketball team could beat this 2021 team. It's like probably not. They'd probably get washed actually. Different things like that. I don't know. That question was a little rough for me to understand, but those are two takes that I just never really like. Anytime I see someone say like 80s team's going to beat a 2000s team, I'm like, probably not. No.
Well, all right. So let me kind of defend that one for a minute. I'm not saying the 80s teams would beat the 2000 teams. I'm not saying the 86 Lakers or the 87 Lakers would beat the 2023 or 2022 Warriors. It's not what I'm saying, because you're right. The athletes now today are bigger, stronger, faster. I get it. But in terms of greatness, when you look at them compared to their adversaries, to the people that they played against. Like, so if you made an argument that LeBron James would beat Michael Jordan one-on-one in basketball, prime versus prime, I could hear that, right? LeBron James is 6'9". He runs like a deer. He's the most athletic specimen we might ever see. Doesn't mean he was a greater player than Michael Jordan was, because he's not. Right? So we could look at things one way or the other, but I will say this. The game was played differently. You look at hockey. In the 80s and the 90s, you had a checking line. Do you know what a checking line is?
Mm-hmm.
It's your fourth line that you send out there to go out there and hurt some people.
Yep.
They don't have that no more. There's no space for it, because when you threw the checking line on the field, on the ring, teams just threw their fastest skaters out there and skated around you and scored goals. The game has evolved, and it's evolved differently. However, I still do it comparatively versus their time.
Yeah, I get that.
I think that's the way I would do it too, comparatively. Yeah, of course you can say the guys are bigger, stronger, faster today, but are they really? Are they really?
Yes.
Steph's not a physical freak. James Harden's the MVP. He's not a physical freak. He's a doughboy. There are some of the best players in today's game aren't physical freaks. Giannis is unique. LeBron might be the most unique athlete we ever seen. KD is unique, but Shaq's a product of 92. He's a product of 92. There's been no one bigger, stronger, or more athletic at his position since him. I don't know if they're all bigger and stronger. I do think they're more. Yeah. I do think they're more skilled, and I think the game has evolved to where it is more about skill than athleticism. So I can see that, but I don't know if you took a certain team and matched them up with a team today, and they played under the same rules, that it wouldn't be a competitive game.
I want to argue today, so I'm going to say something really blasphemous to see if I can get Mo to argue with me. And I believe this take. Like, I don't think this take is a bad take. If prime Shaq came back in today's game, he would be a defensive liability.
Oh, you won't get me to argue. I thought he was a defensive liability in his prime back in the day.
And what I say, I still think he'd score at will. I still think he would dominate the paint. Sure. I just think he would get so destroyed in the pick and roll, and in any type of in today's NBA. If you had a screener, if you had that two-man game that Jamal Murray and Jokic played, he would get abused. It would be so bad. He'd be unplayable in some series.
He doesn't like to play in space. He never has. He could not play against somebody like Joker. He's not going to come out. So Joker's going to have basically his choice of what to do. Shoot the J or slide over, set a screen for Jamal coming off a pin down. Like, Shaq would not be able to play against the better offenses. If they played against the Warriors, he'd probably get 50, but they would abuse him on the other hand, just moving around because he couldn't play in space.
Okay. Look.
Coaches get creative defensively, whether it's some type of box type set where you purposely are keeping them kind of around the basket, but I think offenses today would, chew that up very quickly.
I look at what Coach said, and I listen to a lot of you guys, and I just look at what the Clippers did to Rudy Gobert 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like he won Defensive Player of the Year, and they made him an absolute liability in the paint. Mm-hmm. The game is just played differently. And I think it sounds so funny, but I think Toronto, and no one thinks this way, but I think Toronto has the blueprint of what the next level of NBA basketball is going to look like. They're going to have 5, 6, 7 to 6'9" wings. One that's going to play point guard, one that's going to play center, and they're going to play switch everything. They're going to play fast up-court basketball. Like, that's the way to build your franchise. Give me 5 guys that are 6'7" to 6'9", all athletic, all can switch on any pick and roll. Guys, look what Draymond Green did to Joker 2 years ago in the playoffs. And I love Joker. Just saying, like, Draymond Green stuck him 6'9". I'll take him. Did fine job. I think that's what the NBA is moving towards. I really believe that. Kyle, what's some overused phrases or some phrases you can't stand?
Well, for me, it's kind of what we saw with the NFL, where if they wanted to, I don't know, kind of diminish a player's accomplishments, they called them a system quarterback.
That's a great
Whereas
one. That's a
other
great one. That's a
quarterbacks,
great one.
they would never use that term, even though technically your quarterback kind of makes whatever system you're going to run. Every quarterback runs a system. It's not like they just go out there and just drop a play on their hand and then go and run it. They're either running some type of West Coast system or spread offense or whatever. And I hated hearing that like year in and year out. They'd be like, Peyton Manning's the greatest because this other guy is just a system quarterback. And I still
Who is this other guy? Sounds personal.
I'm just
Did he
saying
play-
it's Tom
did he play
Brady
in
a
New
lot of the
England?
time, and
That's funny.
and
I felt like I knew that was a little
lot of
personal.
people. It was, I had to kind of go to some people every once in a while whenever I heard that, and it just was one of the biggest ones that always got under my skin was the whole system quarterback thing. I just never understood it. So when Mo brought this question up, that's the one that automatically popped in my head.
He can make all the throws. Thanks, Zach Wilson,
Yes.
Malik Willis, Kyle Trask. They can make all the throws, though.
Right.
Do you know who couldn't make all the throws? Tom Brady. Remember Tom Brady's scouting report?
Remember him at the combine.
That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying. I remember the combine video. Yeah.
You never seen a scouting report?
No, I don't think
I think I remember seeing it before, but I don't remember what was always said. But it was like just basically just talking crap on how like wouldn't be good. I'm pretty sure I saw Todd McShay's as well. Not Todd McShay's, but Mel Kiper's
Kiper.
Yep.
report. Yep.
Small experience, big time signal caller, getting very high grades in the efficiency department this past season. Brady cut his interception total in half from 98 to 99, tossing 20 touchdown passes compared to 6 interceptions. He's a straight drop back passer who stands tall in the pocket, doesn't show nervous feet, does a nice job working through his progressions. He's not going to try to force the action, rarely trying to perform beyond his capability. I'm looking for the full. There's one that has him that's so bad. Basically, oh, here it is. Lacks great. I found it. Scouting report claimed. Here it is. Poor build, skinny, lacks great physical stature and strength, and gets knocked down easily. Also said he will not ad lib, does not throw a tight spiral. Like they have so many like poor takes on Tom Brady, and for Patriots fans to pretend that they got it right, they're wrong too. If you knew what Tom Brady was going to be, you wouldn't have took him in the 6th round.
Anybody, not unless you follow that dude through college or have like some sort of personal like for them. Any dude you draft in like the 6th, 7th round, you're not like that's a game changer. Like he is going to wreck, unless it was one of those talents that dropped because of injury. Yeah, I mean,
There's too many damn Seahawks fans. Marlon Bradley's another Seahawk fan.
I got 2 in the chat and I got me.
I like. I'm just kidding.
Gotta roll deep.
Any final comments on comments or quotes or takes that piss you off?
I mean, you kind of.
No, I think I'm gonna go home with the. I'll be saying this in my head till tomorrow, Gene. He can make all the throws. I can't. I'm not gonna be able to let that one go.
I hate that. There's so many quarterbacks that can't. Jalen Hurts cannot make all the throws.
No,
he can. Tom Brady couldn't. I'll take them over Jeff George and Ryan Leaf all day. They can make all the throws.
couldn't make an NFL roster.
Man, remember the hype over what was the guy that didn't read his playbook? Jamarcus Russell.
Yes.
Remember the hype over him? He could throw the ball 80 yards from his feet, 60 yards from his knees, and 50 yards from his ass. I don't care. I'll never forget that they pulled the old okey doke on him with the playbooks.
Yep.
should go home. They sent him home with a bunch of blank tapes. I was like, yeah, study these and let us know how they. Yeah, it was great. I really loved the nickel coverage, and sent him home with a bunch of blank tapes.
Wild.
All right, last topic of the night before we got the big time show. Look at my man Ryan in the chat. My man Ryan. Lamar
Good,
can't
Ryan.
throw. He's a Ravens fan. Ryan's awesome. All right, so my question, this was the Gene Walzak question of the week, was who was the best fan base in sports? We talked about this yesterday on a show. We did an impromptu show yesterday. Are the Eagles the worst fan base in sports? I'm not going to approach this negatively. And you can't say your own, right? Like Mo can't say, oh, the Lakers basketball, like can't do it. You have to give me the best fan base. Sorry, you have to give me your best fan base in sports. You can give me multiple ones. I'll start. I'll show you what I mean. In baseball, you can't look anywhere except baseball heaven. St. Louis fans, Cardinals fans.
That's what I have.
It's baseball heaven, right? They're always supporting their team. They're always selling out, whether they're good or bad. How about football? Is there any better fans than fans that own the team, investment into the team? How about the Lambeau Field Green Bay Packers fans? Now, I left a lot of big ones on the table, including the one that's sitting right in front of your faces, the Cameron Crazies. I left a lot of big college ones on the field too. But who, in your opinion, is the best fan base in sports? Kyle, start us off.
This was an interesting one because I did think of the Cardinals as well for baseball. I'll start with my football one. So for me, this is a fan base I kind of see a lot within the division. I kind of respect Bills Mafia. I mean, they have their moments where they kind of do some wild stuff with the stands, but the tailgating, the jumping on the tables, when was it Andy Dalton led a team to a win that got them into the playoffs? They donated to his,
and they've done that for a couple of different things.
Yeah, they've done it for a few players, and it's a fan base that I used to hate for a while because they, when their teams are really good, they were usually pains in the Patriots side. But now I definitely respect Bills fans, Bills Mafia. So that's my football team. Baseball, and this one might be because of the Red Sox going through such a long drought. I think Cubs fans, and outside of the Bartman thing, because that was probably their lowest moment, but for them to go through the period of the time that they went through, much like the Red Sox, and constantly show up, constantly have their hopes ripped away from them when the team would get eliminated or whatever. I love seeing when home runs are hit, the guys throwing it back on the field, which happens everywhere. But when you see that Wrigley Field, it just seems a little bit different. So those are mine that I'd go with, the Bills and the Cubs.
So I want to make a comment on the Cubs thing, and you said Bartman. You brought that up.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, that is so over. Listen, what happened to Bartman was terrible. Mm-hmm. You studied it and read it. I feel terrible for the guy. He obviously didn't mean to cost his team in that situation. But that is so overblown because if that, don't give Chicago fans crap for that. That happened in any city in America.
Yeah.
And Kyle, I won't even use Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. If that happened at Fenway Park.
Oh, that'd been a fight.
That guy might not have made it home.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's right, but let's not just put that on Chicago fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not Chicago fans. Cubs fans are great.
Yeah.
Mo, let me ask you a question real quick. Where do you live again, brother?
I live in Indiana right now.
That happened in the Pacers game. Oh, I don't even have to ask that happened. The Pacers beat up Pistons players
right
on the court. Right. That's Indiana. Dylan, you're in Atlanta, right?
No, I live in Oklahoma, but I'm a Hawks fan.
You live in Oklahoma. Let me ask you a question. If that happens at the Red River rivalry, where a fan stops a huge situation from happening, how do you think the Oklahoma fans would react?
Oh, bro, everyone's fighting. Texas is coming in and helping us too.
It's crazy though. If you really look at break it down, I think Bartman, what happened with him was mild. It sounds shitty, but it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan, best fan base.
So for NFL, I did have Buffalo. I took kind of this question in two ways. It was one, which fan base would I have the most fun being at a tailgate with?
Okay.
And then which fan base would I think would help me out the most in like a dire situation? You know, which ones would care for you? Which ones would technically be there? I mean, at the end of the day, we're looking for the best fan base. And if my car breaks down and I'm wearing like a Dolphins jersey, maybe Buffalo. I'm pretty sure Buffalo fans will help me, but some other franchises, they probably couldn't care. But since Kyle went Buffalo, I'm gonna go a different route. How about Detroit for the NFL? When it comes, you look at their bad luck of history, you look at how bad the team's been, the lack of playoff success, and different things like that. But Lions fans always seem to be behind their team every year. They don't switch up, they don't leave, they don't do anything else like that. I think, of course, Buffalo will be my number one choice, but when you come to look at like loyalty and teams that just care about their franchise and different things like that, I think what Detroit's done, I mean, just the whole like city of Detroit, even if you look at the Pistons and different things like that, they're always supportive. They know they might be bad. They'll be like, yeah, we suck, but go Lions. So that, I really like Detroit. Met a couple of Detroit fans myself, and they're kind of all the same. Like, yeah, we suck, but we're still going to be here for our team, which I really like. And then on the basketball end, I'd probably say Chicago, the Bulls. I mean, I grew up in an era where D Rose was really popular, and the Chicago love and outpour for Derrick Rose was crazy. But even now, the only NBA game I've ever been to is I've been to a couple of Chicago Bulls games, and the atmosphere, just how it was is just so great. The players who have played in Chicago, different things like that. There's such a rich basketball culture. Like Derrick Rose is a perfect example, a Chicago kid who gets love from Chicago fans anywhere he goes. If he's on Memphis, New York, or different teams like that, just so much love for him because he's a Chicago kid, and so much love for their team. Chicago had the most, well, I'm trying to think of the word. They had the most fans come in for the NBA this season over any other team. They had the most average attendance, which was like 20,000, which is wild because if you look at Chicago at the start of the season, you know, you might thought of them being a potential playoff team, maybe that low play-in area, but they didn't even make the playoffs, and they still had the highest attendance average. So I really like Chicago when it comes to basketball. And then on baseball, I don't really know too much about history of baseball, but I do know how good St. Louis is, living in Kansas, living in Oklahoma. I just know how rich the culture is. The Cardinals fans have always been really nice. So, yeah, I'd say St. Louis for that.
Appreciate the comment, Marlon. I do. I don't want to take Mo's, so if Mo's going to say any of these fan bases, I don't want to steal them from him. But I do have a comment on something. I won't?
Nah, because my fan base, you probably wouldn't even think I would go with this fan base, but I've interacted with this fan base, so I'm definitely going to go with them.
Well, I was going to say, I think the Chiefs and the Seahawks have two of the highest decibels, loudest.
Yeah, I couldn't say Seahawks.
And, you know, it's funny. You look at the chat, right? And you see the CEO of the Empire, Sports Empire Network, saying that Giants fans are better than Chiefs fans. That is hilarious to me. I listen, he's come. Can we start calling Freddie Jordan Jr.? Like he says the Homer comments, Jordan Jr. over there. The Giants fans are better than the Chiefs fans? Are you out of your freaking mind? I don't have a dog in that race, Freddie.
Man,
that's not
I lived in Kansas. I lived in Kansas in that Missouri area, and I will say Chiefs, at least some of the Chiefs fans, some of them are a little, I wouldn't say the smartest football fans in the world, but they do love them some Chiefs. They do love them some Chiefs.
Look,
and that's not to all Chiefs fans. Of course, we have Chiefs fans in the chat, and they're very smart. But some of them I met, they ain't the smartest, but they do love them some Chiefs.
Dude, the 12th man out there in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
That is so awesome to watch. And then they got the Hawk, and they have an honorary fan, the honorary 12th man that like lets the Hawk go, and he flies out and goes back to it. Like, that's awesome. I want to see a game in Seattle so bad.
That is my number one goal.
Rich. I need to get rich so I can start going to some of these fan bases. I would love to do like a tour in an NFL season and just see one game each.
That's like my biggest bucket list goal is that.
I don't even need to see every stadium. Like I don't care to go to Houston. I don't need to see the Texans play. But like I want to go to Seattle, Green Bay, Kansas City. Like I want to
all the ones with big rich like history, like with fans, like or just opening ceremonies of games, different things like that. Just the atmosphere of those big areas.
I want to go to a table. Send me to Buffalo. I want to go to a table. Devon, get the table.
Yeah. I agree. Like, if a Buffalo fan sets me up a table, I'll jump off a truck. I don't care.
All right, mo money, mo problems. What's fan base? The best fan base?
So for baseball, for me, and this is because my family they're rabid Dodgers fans, so I think it's the Dodgers for baseball for me. They are so loyal, they're so invested in the Dodgers. It's 24/7, 365 Dodgers. My uncles, his brothers, they're rocking Dodgers gears basically year round. They're that invested. They're talking about stats. They're talking about previous years. They're bringing up players from back in the day that I didn't know, Steve Garvey and all these old school guys. Like, they're that invested in the Dodgers. So I think Dodgers fans are really a really great and strong fan base. But for a fan base overall that I actually got to interact with on a regular basis, I think Philadelphia fans are great. I think that's a great fan base. I was actually living in South Jersey when the Sixers was playing the Lakers in the finals, and I think he was the owner or the president of the Sixers at the time. I think his name was Pat Croce. I might get the name wrong.
Yeah, you got it right.
And he was doing this thing where he was going to get a bunch of fans together. That they were motivated. They were going to celebrate the finals coming back to Philly. They were getting them geared up for games 3, 4, and 5, and they were going to walk across the Ben Franklin Bridge. And he invited everybody, not just Sixer fans, but anybody that wanted to make that walk. I actually drove there, made the walk. And the crazy thing was, the whole time I'm walking across Ben Franklin, I got Sixers fans. Some of them are coming at me. You know it's over, right? You know the next 3 games, and that's the series. It'll never make it back to LA. And I'm like, I actually agree. It won't make it back to LA. And they're like, nobody can stop AI. This is our time. I had a few Philly fans telling me Shaq's garbage. It's over. Kobe's overrated. For every Philly fan that came at me hard, there were just as many that was really cool. They were very knowledgeable. They were passionate about their team, but they were good with me. No one was for wearing Lakers gears and walking out there. When I went to the game, and I'm amongst like tons of Sixers fans. And yeah, there's a few of them that are coming at me, but most of them, they're just really knowledgeable, passionate fans. I've gone to tailgates with some of my friends who still live in Philly that are Eagles fans. These are rabid people. And if you're a football player, an athlete, and they think that you give them everything you have, they will ride with you till the wheels fall off. And if they think that you're doing less than that, they'll turn on you just as well. This fan base is probably the most engaged fan base I've ever been around. They're the ones that flood all the talk sports radio shows. I mean, they are really integrated and invested in their team. To me, just as an outsider that got to see it firsthand time and time again, I think the Philly fan base is rabid. I think it's one of the best fan bases, if not the best, in all of sports.
Well, checks in the mail, Mo, so I really appreciate
No. That's real. That's real.
I do want to make a comment on that because I didn't want to bring up Philly because I said you're not home team. But for every player that you look at that Philly ran out of town or didn't like, let's look at them real quick. Just take a second. Let's look at them. Let's look at what they don't like about James Harden, Ben Simmons, what they don't like about Carson Wentz, or what they didn't like about, and just go through it, right? They didn't like about, I'll tell you right now, Phillies player they couldn't stand was Bobby Abreu. Couldn't take him. Couldn't stand him. He didn't seem like he cared. Jogged. There's a Philly player that the team just 100%, they 100% follow. You name me a more beloved player than Brian Dawkins, Allen Iverson, Chase Utley, Jason Kelsey. The city loves them. They don't ever have to pay for a drink in the city of Philadelphia ever. This city would go to war and back for Jason Kelsey. They would. Old St. Nick Foles, never in a million years will that man ever have to pay for a drink. The most I don't know who the most loved Philly player is. I can tell you there's 5 of them. It's Nick Foles, Allen Iverson, Brian Dawkins, Chase Utley. I feel like I'm missing one. They had a love-hate relationship with Jimmy Rollins because Jimmy was jogging the first a few times and they couldn't
What about
stand
Dr.
it.
J?
What about Doc?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he's beloved in Philadelphia with no Bobby Clark. But what I mean by that is like Chase Utley could do no wrong. Mike Schmidt had a love-hate relationship, Doug. I'm going to tell you, Andy Reid, they hated Andy Reid. They ran Andy Reid out of town. But Mike Schmidt had a love-hate relationship. I'll tell you something about Mike Schmidt. I'll tell you a quick story. And nothing bad against Mike. But when I was younger, I used to go to the Boys and Girls Club. And I don't know if you guys knew this, but the Philadelphia Phillies used to have a charity basketball team. They used to go around places and Boys and Girls Clubs. And Mike Schmidt had just retired, and he was playing, and he would go to the Boys and Girls Clubs. And I'll never forget they came to our Boys and Girls Club in Philadelphia to play a basketball game. And there was a girl, she was younger, like 16, that was handicapped. She was in a wheelchair, and all the Phillies players that were on the basketball team signed a baseball or a basketball for her, except Mike Schmidt. Mike Schmidt says I charge $80 for my signatures. My signature's worth $80. And it was real ugly to watch. He definitely had a very cocky, condescending attitude towards him. He wasn't the greatest around women. I just being real with you. Listen, I got nothing against Mike Schmidt. He's all-time great Philly. But
hey, Gene, what was the city's relationship with McNabb? Because from the outside looking in, I got the impression they couldn't stand him.
Well, they couldn't. You know who Philly fans can't stand more than any? Are players that have to tell you how great they are, how good they do, or how much they're worth. Donovan McNabb.
I was just saying Philly seems like the culture. Like if you buy into Philly, they'll buy into you. But if you have any sort of signs that you don't want to be there or you're not putting in the effort as much as they are, like they won't care. Get out. There will be someone else who will.
The thing about Donovan was like a lot of people loved Five, but when the T.O. and Donovan McNabb issue came about, they didn't like the way Donovan took a stance on the team side and didn't ride for his player. T.O. didn't like it either. I'll tell you right now, before Terrell Owens signed with Dallas, Terrell Owens was the most beloved Eagle by far. It wasn't even close. They were on Terrell Owens' side. They wanted T.O. to get paid. They wanted T.O. to remain an Eagle. Philadelphia embraced that man after his 1 year. They loved everything about him. And I think that Donovan got jealous of that. And Donovan made sure he put his name out there and said that Brian Westbrook needs a contract and stuck his name out there to make sure Brian Westbrook got paid, but he didn't do it about T.O. And T.O. outperformed his contract. He did. He went out and scored 15 touchdowns. He was the best receiver in football that year. There was no doubt about it. And he got hurt. So when T.O. wanted a raise and wanted more guaranteed money, he didn't even want a raise. He just wanted more guaranteed money. Donovan didn't have his back. So we loved Brian Dawkins on that team. We loved T.O.
Yeah.
We love Chase Utley, Nick Foles. They're the players that Philadelphia loves. Brian Dawkins, said Dawkins. Philly loves the blue-collar players, the ones that will put it on the line. They'll get hurt. Like we had a love affair for Aaron Rowan. He ran into the fence at Citizens Bank Park, broke his nose. He was out for 6 weeks. You couldn't love a player more than Philly loved Aaron Rowan after that. Just an opinion, That's what we're about, though. We're about the effort. Dylan, I'm telling you, living in Philadelphia, why do you think they love Tyrese Maxey so much?
He goes at it. He puts his whole effort into the game every night.
100, and that's the point, right? That's the players we get behind. The reason there's such a love-hate relationship with Joel Embiid, with James Harden, is because when we see you not giving as much respect for the game, as much love for the game as we do, we got a problem with it. We got a couple minutes left. I kind of want to talk about some college fan bases that didn't get brought up. If you could give me just one, maybe two, college fan bases that you think that are best fan bases in the world.
Well, I would have to say I do like what Iowa does. Not Iowa, but Purdue. I do like what Purdue does. Their little hospital wave that they do every day, every like home game is something I think is amazing. Also, I'd have to say Penn State. I just look at those big, just like when the college football's at home, those things where you have those whiteout games, different things like that. Every fan is in a white jersey that game. There won't be anyone wearing even a secondary color of theirs. It's just different things like that.
Penn State's whiteout is one of the craziest things. If you have a whiteout on a night game in Penn State, it is not a fun place to play as a visiting team.
It's a beautiful look, though.
Agreed. I bet it's intimidating for a college kid to walk into that stadium.
Mhm.
Kyle, give me a college fan base that you really love the way they follow their team.
Because that's an interesting one. Being from Boston, where college sports aren't necessarily the biggest thing, but for me, like when I was watching other teams, like fan bases that I would pay attention to, was like Florida State when they had the guy, come on the horse and slam I don't even know what you call it, into the middle of the field. I always kind of like that. Or Ohio with was like the band dotting the I on Ohio or whatever. I mean, like the SEC teams, Clemson walking down, I guess the little ramp that they have and touching, I guess it's like a rock or something coming out.
Mhm.
So stuff like that, I do definitely appreciate. I mean, Cameron Crazes, everybody knows them because Duke was always on, so I always like them as well. But yeah, being from an area where I don't really know if any of the teams up there really have a tradition that, from the outside looking, like nobody's going to say BC for doing whatever. So
Foles still
those
does
are
have a
teams I
statue,
definitely
by
watch.
the way. Somebody asked if Foles still has a statue in Philadelphia. He does. All right, Mo, we're running out of time. Give me a college that you really.
You know what? I'm from a military family, so I was all over. But if I had to say that I got to watch a lot of, just from the outside on TV, I thought Michigan's fan base is kind of rabid. It's kind of strong. They seem like they show out no matter what the event. So I think Michigan's got a really strong and rabid fan base.
Mine would be the Tennessee Volunteers.
Yeah, that's a good one as well.
All right, so we got 7:56. Big Time's on in 3 minutes. We got to exit stage right, so Big Time can exit stage left, come right in. I think that's fun show tonight, guys.
Yeah.
Fun conversations back and forth. But we got coffee and sports tomorrow morning. We got the Big Time show next. Anything you guys want to say before we cut out?
Johnny Manziel was not that good in Cleveland. LeBron is bigger.
Agreed.
I'm just gonna stick with what it's still here, man. He can make all the throws.
And every quarterback plays in the system.
Well, I'm wire to wire, Gene. That's the Prince of Production, Kyle Edwards. Mo Money, Mo Better, and my man D Nice, Dylan Reed. We are the Cheap Seats Podcast. So y'all take a breath, use the bathroom, get yourself a drink, and listen to the sounds of Big Time coming up next. Take care.
Good night, everybody.